You're listening to the appetizer-sized version of this episode with Frank and Chris. To get access to the full entree-sized version, go to patreon.com/nerdpreneur and become a member of the
Awesome Nerdpreneur Board.
Now enjoy the episode.
Talking nerdy. We're just talking nerdy. With all this talking nerdy. Oh, come on, you wanna talk nerdy.
Welcome to Nerdpreneur, and today's Talking Nerdy.
Well, Frank, what did you want to talk about today?
Yeah, Chris, I wanted to just have a chance to talk about something really big that just blew up in the news that a lot of people are going to have heard about, especially if folks are on TikTok and they use TikTok for any kind of income, or they're trying to make a brand and name for themselves on TikTok. The Universal Music Group is pulling out of TikTok and taking their big names like Taylor Swift, Drake, Coldplay, so many big names, and their songs are being pulled off of TikTok. And I wanted us to talk about how that's impactful and what people can do.
Coldplay.
Yeah, and what people can do to prepare for situations like this and how they can handle the situation now. Rather than focusing on the event itself, I think it's worthwhile for us and our audience to kind of just sit in this and think about what can I do and what does this really mean for me?
Well, I think so. I think we should explain kind of what happened a little bit more, because I do think there's probably some context that people are missing from this. So if you don't know Universal Music Group, they are basically the owner of a lot of record companies. They're like essentially the largest conglomerate of music contracts in the world, essentially. And then you have TikTok, which is the big, huge social media platform, and uses all of their songs and everything under a contract. Their contract was up in 2024, and so they've been spending the last while, 6 months to a year, trying to renegotiate what's the next term of this contract going to be. And all of those negotiations have led to nothing. And what I found interesting is this. You know what this reminds me of, Frank?
What?
The Blood War.
No freaking way.
D&D. Do you know anything about the Blood War?
Oh yeah, I had a whole campaign set around the blood war between devils and demons that has gone on for an eternity.
Exactly. So this is exactly like that, because we're watching let's just place who's who. I mean, TikTok is the demons, clearly.
Okay.
And the devils are clearly the music company. Now, how terrible does TikTok have to be for the music company to say you're not paying artists enough? Like, that's where we're at right now, is that a music company, which is essentially like the biggest music company in the world, that is known notoriously for ripping off artists and taking their music and not getting them enough money, because artists don't make enough money under these huge conglomerate record labels and record companies. They're the ones who are trying to be like, hey, we need more money for artists. That's the way they're positioning it. And I just think of them like the devil, because the devils are always telling everyone in the material plane, you have no idea what we're doing for you. You should be grateful for the fact that we are holding back all of these most evil things in the world from running over all the planes and destroying all of you. We are the lone army against the demons. And essentially, that's kind of what's happening here. They're like, hey, TikTok is super evil. And they're so evil. We're sticking up for artists, when in fact the devil itself is the one who's actually still trying to do the right thing. So that's what I think of. It's the tale of demons and devils.
I appreciate that outlook. I appreciate how you are pointing out that, these are both two evils. One is not necessarily better than the other, because their open letter is, Universal Music Group released an open letter, if you're unaware, and it's pretty lengthy, but it goes into vague detail, I would say, very much a devil trait of contracts and wording and bureaucracy. The the details in here are pretty much saying how, oh, Universal Music Group has done the best to protect our artists against AI, to make sure that they're paid a fair amount. And you know what? In fact, we were bullied, and in some cases, TikTok tried to intimidate us into doing what they wanted. And there's other similar large platforms, they don't name anyone, that are treating artists even better. And they definitely do a very good job of making themselves sound like the hero in this situation, which is well done on their part.
That's a very devilish trait.
Yes, it really
They're
is.
positioning themselves with the good light. Well, whereas TikTok, they actually had their own response, and it's about 10 lines, like it's real short. And they're just
Read it
like,
to
it's
me.
sad and disappointing that Universal Music Group has put their own greed above the interests of their artists and songwriters. And that's essentially what they're saying, is just these guys are greedy. That's why you shouldn't listen to them. But they're like, TikTok has been able to reach artist first agreements with every other label and publisher. Clearly, Universal's self-serving actions are not in the best interest of artists, songwriters, and fans. You know, and they're just like, Universal's decided to walk away. What's funny to me about this is like, TikTok seems to live in this delusional world where artists make a lot of money. They don't. Like most artists, like, this is a problem consistent across everywhere. You know, like Spotify doesn't pay enough, and the fact we use Spotify to begin with sucks. You know, there's a whole whack load of artists out there that can't make money outside of touring, and even touring is just like such a huge risk and a
So
huge
expensive.
endeavor to make any money. It's so expensive. There's huge teams, and even the money that they make from it. I mean, streams. I mean, how you know, I think it was Snoop Dogg is like, I got like a billion streams and he made like 45 grand or something. It was just ridiculous how little money it
Whoa.
translated into. It was like less than an average, you know, an average job in the States, you know? So it's like, it's hard being an artist right now if you're a musician. And the idea that like, oh, the reason why it's so hard is because of all these intermediaries who don't pay artists. They're all just like, well, we get to use all your stuff for free. You know, that's the way it
Yeah.
works. Don't you know, we don't want to pay for music. So I
Yeah.
think there's both sides to
It's
that.
reminding me of back in the day. I'm sure you'll remember where you could buy music off of iTunes. And I did this a little bit. It was $1 a song, and I think it was a really low percentage. No, I know it was a really low percentage that actually went to the artist in that dollar purchase. And sometimes really popular songs would
Mhm.
go up to like $4, and it was outrageous in the sense that from the end user, no one wanted to pay that price for a song, even though when you buy a CD, you were paying about 17, anywhere from 10 to $20 for that CD. I remember back in like the 90s and early 2000s. But the music industry, just supporting what you're saying, has notoriously and for a long time not given the artist a great cut of the music that they might write, or at least, be performing into existence.
Well, I mean, there was always issues around artists getting paid enough, but at least when artists were selling CDs and records, there was a not insignificant amount going back to the artist. There was part of it, and also people were willing to spend $20 on a CD because it was like, I own it, and then I can actually, you know, play it at the various places. I have every single song. It comes with some art. It comes as I got a physical thing out of it, right? Like, you know, there's a lot of reasons why I think that works. But then the idea of like paying, you know, now I pay the value of a CD every month to access like every song in the universe, right? And the thing is that money has just shifted, and now there's all of these people in between artists, and streams are just like free, right? Oh, you get like 0.0002 cents per Spotify stream or something like that. It's such a ridiculously small amount that artists get, and part of it is because there's just so many artists on the platforms, and they don't want to stop anyone from being able to get on the platform because we don't want to have gatekeepers. But then at the same time, like, you know, Spotify is making quite a bit of money, so, you know, and they have to license this out to they have to buy the licensing from all these record companies who are still making bank on a lot of this, and then it trickles down to the artist. So it's like, there's a lot of people taking pieces of the pie, and now there's just like this huge distribution network that people have to be conscious of. So anyway, TikTok is saying, hey, we provide a free area for you to be able to send out your songs and get artists notice. And without that, what kind of artist are you even going to be? And the other side is saying, you guys are using all of this stuff for way too little. You're not paying artists enough, and you should be paying more. And so I don't know. Where do you land on this, man? What do you think?
Yeah,
Who's going to blink first?
yeah, I actually think Universal has plenty of options. I think TikTok is the one that's up against the wall in a way. They don't have as much bargaining power in this situation, despite what they think they might have, because think about what Universal's gonna their alternatives are. They've got YouTube. They can go make a deal with YouTube for YouTube Shorts. They could go make a deal with Instagram for Instagram Reels, or well, Instagram is Meta, of course, or maybe the Snapchat or some other platform. Like Universal has options. They're not scared. They're not worried. But I also don't think TikTok is going to really blink. As you were saying, I think TikTok is just going to adapt. This might actually force them to give better options to smaller artists, because I don't know the details, but I did hear that TikTok just does not treat independent small artists who post music, does not treat them well. It doesn't I mean, TikTok, like you've already pointed out, TikTok is another evil. Like, of course, they're not treating their artists
They're the
well.
demons.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't treat anyone well. They're a really bad app from the get go. Like, they have so many problems beyond just like the fact that they are not paying artists enough. They have no moral high ground on anything. They steal all the data. They're run by a corrupt country for a large part of it, that has no interest in giving us the best possible experience. They have an interest in sending us a whole whack load of crap. They regulate TikTok in China, right?
Oh, of
Like, they
course. I
don't.
mean,
They
well,
actually stop people from using it.
China stopped them from using it.
Well, they have time limits, for example. They have age restrictions. They limit what children can see and outside of educational material. Like, they don't want their kids addicted to it. They don't want. But in America, they're just like, whatever, do whatever you want. Because I mean, fair. We're into freedom, but I feel like they just want to get every single person addicted to it, and then you get people who are obsessed around getting viral, and the people who go viral, like, they don't even make any money off of it, really.
Hmm.
And on top of that, it's really hard to monetize your TikTok following into something, right? Like, you have to then spend a lot of time going live and then convincing people to, buy something from you, or you have to, translate them into an email somehow, which is very hard to do. And then this is the same thing happens to every social media company. You build like, imagine the nerdpreneurs out there who are like number one Taylor Swift fans, who have been building their business on Taylor Swift and her Swift music, and the king or queen of the Swifties, if you will. And they are out of luck on TikTok now, because they won't even be able to have any Taylor Swift music on that platform. So you've built your entire platform on rented ground that you don't own. So it's been taken away from you.
Yes.
And that's the biggest problem with any of these social media programs.
Yeah, you hit it on the head. This is going to, so far, it's taken a few different shapes, and I'm curious how it will continue to unfold, where even musicians' platforms where they post a video with one of their songs, that song, for example, is gone, but the video is still there. Or in some video cases, the entire video is blocked, or the videos are taken down. It's going to be interesting to see how this goes. But yeah, for folks that have made a brand based on, I'm just going to take one example of a trend, which is, those short dance videos with a song, and that is so much of what they've done. And maybe someone had one video that has just gone viral and brought them so much success. Now, what are they going to do? They're going to be shit out of luck, because this piece of short video content that has brought a lot of traffic to their channel is now inaccessible. and they probably didn't know this in time to download it. So unless they were fortunate enough to download all of their videos, because they knew about this. So I guess that's a warning right there. Download your videos, and save those on an external drive somewhere so that you have access to them.
Well, even when you download the videos, it doesn't download with the songs though, right?
Really?
So
Okay. Did not know that. Thank you. I
no.
forgot.
If you yeah, if you try to make reels, yeah, no, I'm just saying like when you really make reels, you can't download it and get the song anyway. So all that stuff is housed in app only. And because you're using things that have commercial rights.
Right.
But if you can't find a song for free online somewhere, you don't deserve to be famous. So um, it's just unfortunate.
Yeah. Okay.
Like
All right.
we've had
That's a
Napster,
hot take.
we've had a lot of things since then. All right, like you should be able to find if you want to rip off music, like you can find a way to do that.
The
Um,
internet is
but
vast.
anyway, I also think that here's the thing. You said they don't have many options, TikTok, and I think they actually do. They have quite a bit of bargaining power because they already have because there are other big music groups out there, and those artists are going to now take over the space, and it will become oh well, we can anyone who's on Universal is going to not have a TikTok hit, right? And the thing is that all of these companies are designing TikTok hits or trying to engineer so that there's like we want a clip that does something viral, right? So what can be a section or segment of your song that can be used in a viral clip? And so can you say something about this? Can you say something? Now this is just how producers work, how every artist is coached to write songs for their next album so that they can be able to break into an industry or break into the marketing game. So I actually think that a couple things might happen. One, I think that there will be artists that will become like TikTok. There will be people who are going to those uh, record companies because they have a TikTok presence, right? And so some artists will leave Universal, or they will no longer be able to work with Universal. And then there's going to be also artists that go to Universal that have no interest in making TikTok music, because I think that there's been a negative impact on music itself with the advent of things like Spotify and TikTok and short form video content like
Sure.
Reels. All these things have actually had a negative impact on music creation in general, because everything has to be able like to be formulated in a very short period of time to capture attention. So I mean, it's like if you listen to some of the bigger artists out there, a great example of this might be like that independent artist Tom McDonald. But say what you will about his message, he says some stupid shit and also some good shit. But it's like he basically goes out there and his songs immediately start. There's no like lead up. There's no stairway to heaven here. We're not leading into
Right.
this for 5 minutes for it to become a great epic. It's like one beat and end. He doesn't even give it like a 4 count before he starts rapping, and he's in the beat and in the thing and telling you something to capture your attention. And there's a lot of music that's moving that way, or has moved that way, because it has to be picked up on Spotify, it has to be picked up on TikTok right away. And if it doesn't line with those platforms, you're not going to become it's not going to hit. It's not going to get to the top of the charts.
Yeah, I hear you. There's a lot of changes that have been put into place in the music industry just to incentivize artists to make music that'll go viral or get them marketing recognition. Now, what I'm wanting to really steer this conversation in the direction of is, we've talked about what this how this could affect people on TikTok that use TikTok to try to build a brand. Now, I'd also like to talk about what can people do to navigate this situation, because a lot of people already have lost their songs. Sorry, they've lost their reels because that had those songs. So now I don't think. I mean, tell me what you think, Chris, but I don't think they can do anything now about those videos that are gone with those songs. I mean, you could try to put new music to it, but that's kind of like trying to bring something back from the dead. My hot take is just diversify. That's really what the end of it's going to come down to.
What do you
Uh,
mean by diversify, though?
yeah, so diversify to other platforms. So you may not have that song available for sure, or you maybe when Universal signs a deal with Instagram or YouTube, you'll be able to focus on that platform and send all of your old Universal songs to that new platform. But more than anything, I feel like if your content is specifically around music, you actually need to diversify and do something else, because this could just happen again. And it will. I totally expect this will happen again. Not necessarily Universal, but in general.
The thing is if Universal negotiates a better contract, all the other companies are going to have to negotiate one too. And if they don't, then so that's why it costs TikTok a bunch of money, right? And there's going to be you have to be aware there's going to be a reaction to what everything to what's happening, right? So the reaction on this side is that if people decide, oh, I'm going to work with Universal Music Group here. I'm not going to be on TikTok. Well, maybe they make better music long term, and maybe they wind up having a great resurgence in some way. And yeah, maybe diversification is a good idea, but what happens is this might be just the first contract to come up. Maybe the other contracts are coming up, and maybe they'll all stand against it. Wouldn't that be neat if the whole music industry actually did stand for artists getting paid more, and then making everybody making these big social media companies actually pay more towards their creators, which are way more than just the musicians, right? Like, I mean, it's also all the
Yeah.
content creators who are on there trying to start their own business, all the people who are doing D&D content and reels and memes and all these things, trying to get attention, and these guys just don't do anything except sit there and rake in money from ads. It's pretty despicable and sell the
Yeah.
data that they get from all those people to advertising companies. So Meta has a deal with record companies right now so that there's some music on Instagram so you can use it in reels. But is that going to last? I don't know. And will Universal pull out of that one too? Maybe Universal should start their own social media platform where artists actually get paid more. Maybe they could lead an industry. I don't know. But I think that
That'd be
there's
crazy cool, but you identified them as devils, and I agree. I don't think they're going to suddenly turn into angels.
No, I agree. Well, I think that there's something though. There is a tide that's turning where artists like you just it's getting ridiculous to be able to make money as a musical artist. Like you can't like if you're coming up, there are people who can do it, right? Like Taylor Swift made $1 billion. Yeah, if you're number one, it's great. But then there's tons and tons of
Right.
people that even though they're big, are still struggling to make money. And then there's also a ton of content that's being created by replicating the songs and the music that these people created. And there's really almost nothing going back to the person who literally put in the effort to create that thing that gives everybody this amazing feeling. So,
Sure.
I mean,
Let's focus. So I know we're dragging a lot on Universal and TikTok, but I would really like us to think about what are some strategies for creators to diversify. One example is create a digital or physical product that people can buy that ties into your brand somehow. And I'm hoping you'll have some insights into this, because it's easy for us to just list off a bunch of ideas, and maybe that would be useful to people. But more than anything, it's what is something that someone can do to turn their brand that they now realize is vulnerable. Suddenly it's like, because I envision some content creators now realize, oh my God, I am so much at the whim of these big companies for my own brand that I'm trying to build. What the fuck am I going to do? So in this case, you of course would have a link tree link or something similar that directs people to your other places, your other platforms, your website, your Etsy, your newsletter list. And I think it's good for people to have more have more content that is sales focused, because there's a lot of this like fun content, but then what's like where do you go from there? So I wanted to know what you thought as far as what are some directions people can take.
to turn their online presence into a business.
Turn it into a
I mean,
business, but
there's
more
a lot of
specifically to
people.
diversify what they're doing.
I mean, the biggest thing is collect emails. Like you own emails. people say, "Oh, email's dead." It's not. It's the thing that they use to verify everyone's accounts. It's still your, one and only kind of private, uh, area, like vault online, essentially, that you send things to. So your passwords go there, any secure information goes there. So, I mean, getting someone's email is still a very personal thing, and every single one of your social media platforms requires one usually, or you can use your Apple ID, I guess, if you're an Apple, but even that's attached to an email. So
Right.
the thing is, emails are your only asset, like if you're building a business online. So if you have anything else, it's on rented ground. Now, can you make a successful business? Yeah, you do. But if you're going to build it on social media, you have to be you have to be a surfer, like, and that means you're not going to complain when they change things on you. You're going to react. You don't blame the waves when the waves come in hard, right? Like,
Right.
you ride the waves and you figure it out, because that's your job as a surfer. Well, you should be thinking that way as a social media influencer. When things aren't progressing properly, you adapt and you shift and you figure out what will work, or you reinvest into a new social media platform. Like I keep saying, there's new ones popping up that I think could be growing, because that's the thing about capitalism that's great, is if something isn't very effective, people will stop using it, or they'll move to something else, or they'll stop paying for it, right? So it's harder and harder to keep monopolies in today's society, because we have a lot of freedom to create new things, and other things pop off that solve problems, right? So maybe it is, moving on to a different platform and looking and exploring other platforms, or maybe it's getting off all the platforms altogether and doing something that's more local.
That's true.
There's lots of possibilities in your own neighborhood if you happen to live in a city where there's a population that could support your business.
Yeah.
But I don't think you not having a Taylor Swift song in your video is going to make or break your business motto. I just don't think that one TikTok or 10 TikToks or even a viral TikTok is going to make or break your business.
Yeah, that's a good reminder. That's a good point to bring up. There's, for folks that maybe are afraid, it's not your entire those, as easy as it is for us to feel like our content is an extension of us. We provide value in many ways. And if your reels, if your TikToks, if your shorts are being taken down, like that's not the only way you can provide value as a human being, as a creator, as a nerdpreneur, an entrepreneur.
Hey, Nerdpreneurs, Chris coming at you. You may have just been wondering, how do I get into be a supporter of this podcast? Well, we use Patreon, and we call all of our Patreon subscribers board members, and they are part of the Awesome Nerdpreneur Board. Not only will board members receive extra content, extended interviews, and our undying love, in the future they'll also be invited to our Discord community, as well as monthly staff meetings where they can ask us questions, boardroom style, and have an influence not only on who we interview, but what we actually ask them in upcoming shows. Sounds pretty cool, right? Well, if you want to support us, go to patreon.com/nerdpreneur and sign up to be a member of the board today. Now back to the episode.
So, Chris, anything else you want to add?
Nope.
Well, everybody, thank you for listening.
For the first time ever, I have nothing to say.
Wow. Well, yeah, it's pretty late for us where we are, and Chris is on the East Coast, and it's even later for him. So it's a good time for us to stop it. So, all you nerdpreneurs out there, just remember that opportunity is out there. And until next time, everybody,
keep it nerdy.